Bonjour mes élèves. Aujourd'hui, nous allons étudier le passé composé des verbes réfléchis. Ok, allons-nous faire une révision? Let's review. Remember to use your reflexive pronouns. They are the same reflexive pronouns that we used when we were doing reflexive verbs in the present tense. So with je, we'll use me, tu, te, il se, elle se, on se, nous, vous, il se, elle se. Next, use the helping verb être with every single reflexive verb, without exception. So the je me becomes je me suis, tu te becomes tu t'es, il se becomes il s'est, elle se becomes elle s'est, nous becomes nous sommes, vous becomes vous êtes, il se becomes ils se sont, and elle se becomes elles se sont. Next, you add your regular past participle. Most reflexive verbs are ER verbs. There are a few that are IR verbs. I can't think of any that are RE verbs, but there may be times when you'll use some structure similar to this with an RE verb. What that means is most of these are ER verbs, so you'll drop the ER and add I aigu to form the participle. So, to say, I washed up, je me suis lavé. For girls, you'll add an E, but for guys, you will not. Tu t'es lavé, you'll add an E if you're speaking to a girl. Il s'est lavé, no E because il is a boy. Elle s'est lavée, you will add an E because elle is a girl. On s'est lavé. Interestingly here, we'll never assume that on refers only to women or feminine things. So on s'est lavé could at times when we're talking about us be an S would be added. We talked about that little rule in the past. Do not worry too much about this rule. We talked about it when we learned regular verbs, the Dr. Mr. Vandertramp verbs that ended with eu or I or you followed by an E for the feminine. Don't worry too much about this. Nous sommes lavés, of course we'll have an S, but if it's only girls that you're talking about, then you'll add an E when you write it. Vous vous êtes lavés, same thing. And of course, sometimes we're talking to a vous that is a single man and we're using formal French. When that happens, you don't even need to add the S because you're just talking to one man formally. Ils se sont lavés, you add an S at all times. Elles se sont lavées, you add an ES at all times. No agreement, however, the adding of the E or the S will occur in a phrase where there is a direct object added. So, if I say, elle s'est lavé les mains, even though she is feminine, because we have the word les mains, she washed her hands. Les mains is a direct object, and so you do not add the second E for feminine or the S to make it plural. Nous nous sommes lavés, freestanding it's right, but when I say we washed our faces, nous nous sommes lavés la figure. La figure is in fact a direct object, so we do not add the E. Now to make these phrases negative, remember, just like in the present tense, the reflexive pronoun stays stuck to the verb. That means, in this case, it's going to stay stuck to your helping verb. That becomes your active conjugated verb. The ne precedes the helping verb. The pas comes after the helping verb and before the participle. That would be true if we were talking about jamais or rien as well, plus. Don't worry about them. You will be able to figure out what your negative word is, and it'll come after your helping verb, before your participle. So, an example might be, je ne me suis pas lavé la figure. I'm a woman. I normally would write that sentence with two E's, but because it says la figure, I'm not going to add that E. Nous ne nous sommes pas amusés chez Alice. We didn't have a good time at Alice's house. And so what do? The nous, ne, and then nous sommes, and then pas, and then your participle amusé. Chez Alice. Since chez Alice it's an indirect object because chez is a preposition. So that prepositional phrase tells you this is not a direct object. Okay, bon chance, and we'll do some exercises tomorrow in class.